Welcome everyone to episode 187 of Cowboy Sh. My name is Ted Stoven, and as always, my co-host, the lovely and talented Dustin Edwards. Thank you for joining me today, Dustin.
Happy to be here, buddy.
I uh I know my card at your wedding said to the prices, but I will still leave your name on my phone as Dustin Edwards.
Thank you. I'm glad that the trend has begun. As I heard a few congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Price, after the wedding, courtesy of Ted's trends setting that he
I
did.
I mean, I think we all knew who wears the pants in the relationship at the Price household, so just saying.
It was fun.
Oh, Matt, okay. Um I where do we start? I want to talk about the wedding and that we had so much fun on the weekend, and I'm so glad I got to be there with you. I'm so glad you invited me to be part of the wedding. I'm glad, I'm glad you guys, there's just so much fun stuff we can talk about, but I gotta tell everyone, and not everybody might know yet, but um Bree and I were at the hockey game on Tuesday night for New Year's, and I got a call from my dad's partner and my brother while we were sitting at the hockey game, and something had happened. I didn't know what, but um they said you better get here fast. So we spooled up out of there during the game and stopped at home really briefly, packed a bag, and I remember hearing my dad tell me on the road we were just getting out of town. He's like, "Everything's gonna be all right, Ted. Don't worry." Um, but he fell down and had a big heart attack on Tuesday night. My auntie Joyce, who is actually also Brett Gardner's auntie Joyce, that's the aunt we share. It was her birthday, and they had a party in Drayton, and Dad was there and saw everybody, and they were out dancing and had a great time. And but he got home, had a big heart attack, and he never ended up waking up. Officially passed away on Wednesday night about actually it was 5:55 on January 1st, 2025, 5:55 p.m. So we were all there when he went, but um it's been quite the week. Uh I'm glad I got to see him lots. He was a big part of my life for a long time. Um I don't know what else to say, Dustin, but
Well, Ted, I know he was a great dad to you, and he was a hell of a guy. And if you are listening to this and you maybe didn't know Stovey, listen to the episodes. Ted, I'm so glad that that you were able to record all that stuff with your dad, because it's gonna live on forever. All the wild tales. If you didn't meet Stovey, he could have been the character out of a movie, man. You never met anybody that met your dad that didn't talk about it afterwards. He was a quite a dude, wasn't he?
oh yeah. Yeah,
And there's nothing easy about of talking about it, man. I admire you jumping on here. It's still so fresh, and talk about it. But I mean, that's the best way to do it, is just talk about it, remember him, because he was he was quite a guy. There's no other way to put it.
well, yeah, for anybody that's listening, if they haven't listened, I actually sent the link to a friend today that didn't know we had done it. But it's episode 153, so it was about a year and a half ago. My brother and I had recorded this, I think the year of the COVID summer, like, so we recorded it quite a while ago, and we intended to do more this year, but we never, the day we had lined up, it didn't quite pan out. But like, I wish we would have got more on record. And for anybody that's thinking about doing it, just do it and make sure you record it. But I'm his service is going to be on the 13th of January, so a week today from when we're recording this. For anybody that is hearing this that wants to come to the event, it's going to be at 1 o'clock at the Mackenzie Center, January 13th. It's a Monday in Drayton Valley. So give me a shout if you need more details. If you hadn't heard about it already, if you weren't planning to come, but we're going to use a lot of the stories he told at the service. So um, I think it's pretty neat, and I don't know, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever been to a funeral before where I heard the actual person that passed away speak. So I think it's gonna be pretty. I think it's gonna be pretty special for everyone that knew him to be able to hear his voice again.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. That'll be a neat touch. And um because there is probably, I mean, there's probably not going to be enough time to tell all that you want to tell. So,
No, never.
um but yeah, what a legacy he leaves behind. And had the scotch going on the weekend
that
for Stovey. So it
that
was
bottle didn't last very long, Eddie.
no, it didn't. It was put to good use.
Well, JD and I had a couple the night that he passed. I picked it up that day, and we definitely finished it all off
If you had to
pretty
sum up
short order.
your dad and kind of his legacy, from your viewpoint, what would it be? And I mean, I know um, he's got some awesome kids out there, and you're obviously done so much, and he's been a big influence on you. But how would you want to sum up your dad?
You put me on the spot, Dustin. I wish that I had the question before, I guess, but what would I say? The so there's so many ways I can go with it, but one of the ways that I can quickly define it is that dad did things his way. His theme song was My Way by Frank Sinatra. There was no like and that's 100% how I've been raised and how I intend to live my life is I'm not, I don't have a job where I work for one person. I go to the office every day. Like I, it's not how I can survive. It's not how I was built, how I was raised. Like I know a lot of folks, that's what they want to do and that's what they love to do. That's their schedule. But I don't know for me if it's some sort of way I was wired or mentally or what, but I don't do well sitting still very long, and I don't think Dad did either. But he definitely did things his way, and he took risks, and he I I don't even know how else to explain it, Dustin. But he, like when he was 8 years old, he got stuck in a snowstorm and had to survive. And when he got cancer, he took all the stuff out of his. He was in the hospital, and they gave him like 15 to 30 days to live or something stupid, and he took all the IVs and everything out of him, and he fucking walked out of the hospital, and he lived another 50 years. Like he wasn't willing to take someone else's word for for an answer and tell him, that he wasn't going to do something. He was going to do it whether, you know, he he one of the best pieces of advice he gave me was there's a couple, but one of the best ones was whether he told me, Ted, whether you think you're right or whether you think you can or can't, you are right. That was one of the best lines where he said if you make your and another one was that that you can do anything you want to if you want to bad enough. And I realize there's
That's a
some
great line.
right there. I realize there's some there's some stuff that maybe, you know, just like Gator, Dad know how to tell a hell of a story. So there's some stuff there that I should say within reason, but on the other hand, if you want to keep it without reason, then I want to say just how I think we talked about with somebody on the show the other day, but like I very deeply believe that I can do anything I want to if I want to bad enough, and sometimes I don't want to bad enough, and then it doesn't happen. So if I really want something and I really want to do something, then I know in my heart and deep down that I can do it, and that's because of my dad. So yeah,
That's
our
cool.
wildest dreams can come true if we want them to bad enough. I think that's what I would interpret Dad's
And
life.
that's
That
and that's coming from a guy who has worked all over the world and
yeah,
seen some stuff and was around royalty and saw people getting gobbled up by polar bears and whatever crazy shit
yeah,
was part of it. So
right,
good guy to take the advice from, Ted.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I hope that kind of answers your question and kind of paints the picture for people.
Well,
But
I
like,
threw you on the spot, but it's I
yeah,
mean, we've got this platform and we're talking about it, and
yeah.
it's sometimes when it's just yeah, it's just interesting to hear, and that answer might change as time goes on. So
Well, I hope I can more eloquently put it because Dad was great with words and he was very wise that way. So hopefully I can do him justice better. in the memory that way. But he did
Well,
it.
on
He did
his
it. Sorry, go ahead.
and on I was gonna say on his last night on New Year's Eve, he was out dancing, which I know he was a big dancer. So
Yeah.
heck, he must have been having a hell of a good time.
Well, and it's kind of wild. Like Storm put that design out for us in the last year, the one that says "Die Standing Up," and I think it's like it's definitely an old cowboy saying where might have been a gunfighter, might have been somebody that was out doing some cowboy shit and doing some really living. Because I think you're not. Well, I shouldn't say that you're not, but I think it can be said that you were probably living, truly living, if you died with your boots on. Because if you do die with your boots on, it means you were doing something. You weren't laying in bed and you weren't in your house sitting around watching TV or whatever it might have been, right? If you die with your boots on, you're either riding your horse or you're
Two stepping.
yeah, right, out drinking scotch with your friends, like you're doing you're
Yeah.
doing exactly what you want to do. So I thought it was quite a fitting quitting. It was kind of wild. It's kind of a fitting sweater that Bree wore to the hospital when we were in Edmonton because that's exactly how Dad went. So he
Well,
yeah, I will say that I'm sad right now for having lost him, but uh I know I know he's having a visit with a lot of his old friends that are already up there. So he's enjoying things, and he did not live a life of any regrets. I will say that.
well, there's reverence in knowing that, and our condolences, Ted, to you and all your family, and
Thanks, Dustin.
we're all here with you for this next week. It'll be tough, but we know that you guys will celebrate him the right way on Monday,
Absolutely.
and it's awesome that we get to can still go back and listen to some of the stories that were told, and I'm sure an opportunity to put some more together that haven't made it on the show yet here at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few the recordings maybe aren't quite the same, but I'm hearing there's some more out there now, so we'll have to maybe gather some more up,
Totally.
but yeah, Dad was born in 1943, so he was 81 years old, just turned 81 in October. But yeah, we'll miss you, Dad.
You know what? And in today's day and age, if you can get into your 80s and he didn't do it with ailments or bedridden, he was out living his life. It's a pretty damn good run for a guy who was in plane crashes and
Yeah.
and survived the things he's seen over those 81 years. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know how many times he beat cancer and yeah, I don't know how many plane crashes. My brother sent me a link today about a plane that crashed and all but like two people died that he didn't get on. So he avoided a plane crash that he should have been in too, probably. So there
he's
was a bunch of yeah. He lived, man. Like that's all I can say. All I can say. But uh it's kind of wild how some of this stuff happens, right? Like I'd been gone for like 5 of the last 6 weeks off and on. I hadn't been home much, and then I am home, and I was literally headed to Drayton the next day to go see him. We were gonna go there on the, well, I guess it was on the, no, I think it was New Year's Day. We were supposed to go up there for dinner with my brother. Yeah, we did. We were. So I was supposed to go up and see him the next day. So he knew that I was gonna be around to be able to be there with everybody and be there with him. So and I had just seen him not too long ago, but I got I brought him some chew back from Vegas, and now he's gonna have to figure out somebody to chew it, or maybe we'll have to put it with him or something. I don't know, but
yeah, that might be good. Send it off with him.
right, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was crazy how it worked because I've also never been able to make it to a wedding I've been asked to be a part of, like to be part of the bridal party. So I was thinking when this happened, I was like, this was all happening, and your wedding was on the weekend, and my brother's birthday was on the 4th. So I was like, Dad wouldn't want me to miss the party. He wouldn't want me to miss Dustin's wedding. So he I don't know if he knew, he must have known that too because I was only up there about 24 hours and then he had passed. So he knew that I had to get to your party and party we did, Dustin.
Yeah, there was scotch drank, there was whiskey drank, there was dancing, there was a bit of everything over the course of 3 days. And man, I was so honored that you were came and stood up for me and was part of the whole weekend. And yeah, it was a blast, man. I really appreciated you still coming and getting to be around a lot of our great friends and hug and celebrate, um, and knew you had to do it with a bit of a heavy heart, but we were certainly happy to be there with you and you be part of it for us. So it was a great weekend. So thank you.
I know that well, first of all, thanks, and I'm glad to have been there, and you're welcome. You're welcome for setting you guys up once again.
That was the theme. Just so everybody knows, that was the theme of a lot of the speeches and presentations uh, at the event, was that it all started on the Cowboy Shit podcast. So
A lot of people got a lot of or a lot of people got some love on the mic, but no more than the show.
it
Top
was
plugs of the
good.
night.
Yeah, it was good.
We probably gain a couple new listeners out of that, I would hope.
I think so.
A couple
And
new
had
fans.
some listeners randomly in the hotel tell us they
Yeah.
heard about the wedding on the show that were there for
Yeah.
like hockey tournaments. So
Yeah, well,
that
you
was
got to tell
cool.
that story quick. That was a wild one.
Yeah, we had people come up to us and say, "Hey, what's the wedding?" I said, "It's mine." And I said, "Dustin Edwards." And they said, "Oh, we heard about this wedding on the Cowboy Shit podcast. It's happening here." We said, "Yeah." So
That's
that
me
was kind
actually.
of
I'm on the
fun.
show.
Yeah, yeah, it's me. Hi, it's me.
Do you want an autograph? They're like, no, it's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
just enjoy your wedding. So yeah, it was really cool.
Oh man. Speaking of the wedding, like I don't know if we'll be able to throw it in, but for those that haven't seen it yet, Dustin sent us the best uh groomsmen video ever, I think. And then for you to get like, so tell the story, tell that, and then tell the one about Gator 2 and Jack Michaels.
Yeah, so everyone asked their groomsmen to be part of the wedding in different ways. It could be a card, an invite, a gift, or something. And I thought I should try and find like the biggest celebrity video to do it. Um, I started with A-listers, B-listers, C-listers, worked my way down. I think I ended up on D-listers, but I landed on John Lovitz, mostly because his appearance in the movie The Wedding Singer was classic. If you don't know who John Lovitz is, he was in Friends a bunch, and The Wedding Singer, A League of Their Own. He's in tons of movies, lots of Adam Sandler stuff. So booked it through the Cameo site to get him to do the invite, and we got the video made up the next day, and it's on all my socials. We'll have to share it on the show or the socials, and you can see the video of him asking Ted and everybody to be part of the wedding party. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was like you sent it to us all in this group message. I was like, what is this? And I see it. I'm like, damn, that was fun. And obviously, yes, we'll be in your wedding.
I like the part how he asked you guys to be his groomsmen and then said that he was going to be the best man, of course. So that was pretty funny. So I posted that on my socials today and getting a lot of laughs and likes on that. So
Oh yeah. Well,
it was
and
cool.
then for you as a Flames guy working for CSEC, I was very surprised that you were able to get Jack Michaels to invite Gator to be your best man.
I was a
How'd you
little
pull
worried
that?
about I was a little worried about that. But it was during the playoffs last year, and knowing that Gator is such an Oilers fan, and on the backside of it, like Gator always imitates him, doing his voice on the show. So I thought that would be pretty funny. Um, and I think he had said he'd been in 19 weddings, and he had never been a best man. So he gave Gator the one up there. So
I've been in
thought that was
one.
pretty cool. But I was fighting to get them put into the wedding ceremony, but we left them for social media and omitted them, which was probably fine because Gator's presentation took up the bulk of the show on on Saturday night. He had about a I don't know a 15-minute slideshow deck and storytelling escapade that Gator went on. So um, he took up the bulk of the show,
Y-
which was entertaining.
Well, Gator, like that was probably the best man speech maybe I've ever heard or seen. I've only been in one wedding now, so thanks, Dustin.
Yeah.
Uh, but uh, but yeah, Gator did a prime job of telling stories, and we're gonna have to get him on because he had a story about the fucking the oh okay, well I don't know where he met this chick, but he had a housekeeper that ended up living at his house, and and you had to go in and pretend to be a realtor to get this chick to leave.
That's correct. So Cole's notes, he hired a housekeeper. to clean his house. He was batching it in Ponoka. And then he went away for work overseas somewhere. And she texts him and says, "Hey, um, I got kicked out of my house I'm living in or whatever it was. And do you mind if I stay at your place while you're gone?" And he was kind of like, "Well, I guess you've got a key and you come and clean it." And then she like basically like declared squatters' rights and said, "I'm not leaving." And so we crafted up this idea where I became a realtor. But the problem with that was like she had to be there every time I came, every phone call. I had to fake these deals so that she could see like, hey, the house is sold. You've got to vacate, because there was no other way she was leaving. She declared squatters' rights. It was totally nuts. So we'll get him on one day to tell the whole story. But it was a good enough story that Gator decided to tell it at the wedding and got a few laughs in the process.
He's such a great storyteller. I was so good that way. Like he did such a great job.
Like he has a bit of a like a calm demeanor delivery, but the stories are so good, and he's a word his way with words is so great, but it's not this like high and lows and big presence on the mic. He just has a great way to tell the story that keeps everybody's attention, and it was well done.
But in all seriousness, he is definitely the Larry David of Curb Your Enthusiasm as far as characters go day to day.
100%,
Yeah.
100% he is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was a good story to tell at the wedding, and then he told the story of me getting the slap shot in the nut.
Yeah.
Um,
So you only have one. So you only have one testicle, hey?
they saved it. It was gonna get removed, and then it wasn't, and then it stayed in there, and thanks to some steroid shots, it stayed in place.
Oh,
So
so you still have two testicles.
I still do.
You don't have like a glass ball or anything like a
No,
glass eye. No.
no, no. For all those wondering,
Well,
it's
because a lot of
still
people were wondering. We were all on a cliffhanger because we were like,
yeah,
so it was the
yeah,
size of an avocado, but then did it like what happened? We weren't sure.
yeah. It's still there. So
And
rest
do
assured.
we know if it's a functioner or not? Do you know if you have any
I
DVD?
don't we don't know that yet, but now that we're married,
DVD?
I suppose we can put it to the test. So
Put it to the test.
yeah,
Oh
but
man.
and like I said when I thanked Gator, I said don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. I don't know how many. I'll have to fact check it, go back and listen, but needless to say, he did it in a way that was very entertaining. And then we
Uh,
proceeded to dance the night away and have a hell of a good time.
well, that's what I was gonna say. I was thinking, like, I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty tired, obviously, and pretty wore out, and mentally, physically, like, not my best. And had a couple drinks with everybody in the afternoon, and I was kind of like, I was a little down and tired, and like we did our pictures, and then we kind of like were hanging out for a little while, and I was like, I was battling, and I didn't want to get too drunk, like I didn't want to get too messed up, and I didn't have any shrooms with me, so I couldn't light it up and like keep myself awake. We didn't even talk about the stag party from the week before yet either.
Yeah, that was another wild one. This was a busy week.
Yeah, we had a lot of shit go down in the last show, but I don't even know what all went down now. But do we talk about the? We didn't even talk about the stag yet,
Well,
did we?
no, we didn't. No,
We didn't, right?
I don't
No.
think so.
We had the stag at the Roughnecks game, which you work at, and I
Yeah,
tried to drug you.
you guys rented the suite. Ted poured me a drink while I was working. But luckily enough, before I consumed any of it, um, it was told to me so that glass remained untouched, which was good. And
Luckily,
after the Roughnecks game, we all went out and we did the Telus Club, the live band. Then
yeah,
we went to the casino, and Ted took the casino down,
tried to bankrupt the casino.
tried to bet, and he did.
My
And
pupils were very large, and my counting was on point, and my luck on the roulette table was impressive.
it was very impressive. So we won some money. We had a great time. We had a great group. It was the who's who of Canadian contract acts and rodeo, and uh, friends and family from all different walks of life. So it was a hell of a week.
Yeah,
Stag party, wedding. We had a party bus that toured us around during the wedding. We had the conference room the night before. We all hung out in and drank whiskey and eat pizza and told
yeah.
stories, and it was just awesome.
And so what I was trying to get at with the wedding night was I was battling a little bit, and I was like, oh, like I'm trying, and my guts were like a little bit off, just like trying to get going, and then I was like, I just turned a corner at one point. I was like, okay, fuck, like I gotta get together. Like we got like Dustin told us to bring the shit, like in the wedding production meeting, like we gotta like we got to go strong here. I can't leave this wedding early. I can't be like a 9 p.m. and out kind of guy at the wedding. In the wedding, I got to show up. I got to be fucking a good wedding uh party guy.
And
So
I visually seen when you turned that corner, because at one point I looked over and we had these big light bars that were battery operated for the stage. And at one point you and Sean Morton were hoisting them over your head, running around the dance floor like they were, you were weightlifting lights. And then Morton had a mop that he was dancing with, and you guys were out there just giving her. And I thought, okay, they're bringing the shit here.
we're bringing the shit.
And
That
you did.
I feel like for me I think Sean was the one. It had to be Sean was the one that picked up the light because he picked it up like it was a Stanley Cup, and that we were like, it was my move of the week was the fist bump over the heads because I was what I was doing at your stag party,
Yeah, it's the
trying to party.
weightlifting with just all arms.
Yeah, but then I had the light. So then we had the light, and we were like going. But before that, I was up on the stage with Tarek,
Yeah.
the DJ, and I was doing my best DJ moves up there, getting the people going. And then I was down with Sean, and then like I feel like that was a turning point. And then everybody knew we're like, okay, now we're here to party. And
Yeah.
anyone that didn't stay to party, they really missed out because it was an epic night of shenanigans,
Yeah. And then,
fun
I heard
shenanigans.
Nickelback came on and
Yeah,
people were going. Sean Morton had his mop back out, which made an appearance at his wedding. I remember him with a mop, walked dancing. I
yeah.
had a photo of that. His wife Casey was doing the worm on the dance floor. Our friend Tessa was doing the full on splits. It
The
was,
Rasputin
yeah.
splits.
At one point, I think she grabbed the mic and freestyled,
She did.
and
Is it
and
too
it was
short?
just, yeah, yeah. So
No, you
it
like to
was
party. Yeah,
yeah. Chad Bestplug had some wild moves on the dance floor that night.
he did.
There's a lot of friends of the show there having a hell of a good time. So
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get any live audio from the wedding. Sorry, everyone, but I was there in the moment. I wasn't recording much. I think I have
we
like 4 pictures on my phone. So
we were enjoying it.
I do have this one. Sorry that I didn't that you weren't close by, Eddie. We got
You know
this
what?
one with Aly.
Let me suggest, if you're doing a wedding, this was Ali's idea, was to get a Polaroid camera. And there is some fun Polaroids in our wedding guest book. So we asked everyone to take a picture, put it in the book, or get a picture and take it home. And there it is. The
Yeah, sorry I
Polaroids
didn't
was
put
really, it was fun.
sorry I didn't put it in the book, but we got this one. We did
Uh,
put some in the we did put one in the
yep,
book for
you're
you.
in the book. Yeah, there's one of
Yeah.
you in the book. Some
Yeah,
cool souvenirs in there. So it's really, I love that idea. It was really cool.
I definitely signed your welcome again in the book for those wondering.
You did. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite
Um,
one? How many nudes were in the book by then? How many gator nudes were in there?
you know what? No gator nudes. We have a ash cheek, of woman's, with a thong. Um, do you know what? Everybody kept it pretty good. I'm not going to show the ass, but everybody took some really nice pictures. And my favorite comment of the night came from one of our friends, Robbie Chomick. Bruce Stampede was there, and he said, "I hope your next wedding dance is as fun as this one." Then his wife smacked him and said, "Don't say that." So we joked about that, but yeah, it was a hell of a good time. And thanks
Oh,
everybody who was there for joining us. And I still got the raspy voice from singing. Me and Aly, Gator and Tarek were officially the last two there because they were rock stars and stayed and put stuff away. Well, but we officially locked the door on the hall, me and Aly, and we were the last two people in there. So
yeah.
our goal was to make it through the night with all our friends, and we were able to do that. So it was really cool.
Well, then you guys stayed up late after just talking, and she said
Yeah.
in the morning. You guys just
Yeah, it
couldn't go to
was,
sleep. You're jacked.
no, we were just, it was such a high, man. Like I'd
Yeah.
never experienced, it's funny being at events and being on a mic and broadcasting. Like at times you're in people's spotlight and attention, and but there was no high, like, I don't know, not that it was like an attention thing, but it was just like, it was so cool, like doing the first dance and being up on the stage at the table with all my friends, and going around visiting with everybody. And then we laid in bed and we're like, "Oh, did you see so and so?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, did you see
Yeah.
this person?" She's like, "No." "Did you?" I'm like, "Yes." And then she said the same. And so there's
Yeah.
all these people that came and that we didn't even get to chat with. And I'm like, man, that was the hardest part, was just trying to get to talk to everybody. So
Yeah.
we'll look forward to catching up with everybody and reminiscing as we go on, the people we miss. But just so cool to have such a diverse group of people from all these different areas of our life come together and celebrate. So lots of
I,
fun.
I wonder what we could do, Dustin, where it's like a get together like that. That's not a wedding. That we could all just get together with all our friends, just hang out and have a party, like once a year,
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll just like pretend it's a wedding.
right? A mock. Should we
Everybody
do a
show
mock
up
wedding?
like it was someone's wedding.
Right? Just have
Or
a
we've
party once a year.
or we've still got some unwed friends, Ted. So there's still going to
That's
be some
true.
more weddings to come.
There's like, should we put like a pool on it? Like Gator is not married yet. Covey's not married yet. Monty's not married
Not
yet.
married yet. Ted's not married yet.
I'm also not married yet. I dodged that one this year. So, um, I guess we never even
So
talked about that yet, honestly, either. We could talk about, we're hitting some tough topics this week, but
yeah, Ted's
yeah,
wedding never happened in August.
yeah,
We'll just go right to it. But
just
you're
there. Yep.
planning a very small, intimate one. So
True.
after experiencing mine, would you change how you do it?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. I would make mine
Yeah,
exactly like yours.
yeah,
Can you
okay,
produce my wedding
yeah.
if I get, when I get to that point again?
Hey, also speaking of that, how about Dave Paulson, our MC?
Oh, unreal. Well done, Dave. Well done.
Dave Paulson was our MC. Um, we had Dom Saint Amon, kind of like our stage manager.
Production
He was
assistant.
he
Yes.
was he was organizing
Backup
us all.
announcer.
Yeah. Dave killed it on the mic. He was so good. You know what's amazing to me
How
was
he insulted everyone at the start of the show
oh,
and everyone was
total
fine with
roast.
it.
The best. He's the best. Um, Dave did all these really good stories, and I mean, he's such a consummate professional. And at the end, we went up to do a thank you, and all these papers were on the desk, but they were just the order that I sent, emailed him. This
He
man
made it up.
didn't write down anything. He just spoke, and he's that good. You thought it was like this, like well produced, well rehearsed MC, but he totally slayed it. So
He he
thank you,
did
Dave.
he did write down the intros of all the wedding party. I
Oh,
did
that's
see
right.
that
Yeah,
written down.
yeah, yeah.
But everything else was pretty impressively off the cuff.
Yeah. So well done, Dave. Hell of a
Yeah.
good
Well done,
time.
Tarek, too. MVP of the night, I
Oh,
think. Co
what a
MVP, Tarek
DJ.
on the DJ. That was
Yeah.
impressive.
Former guest of the show as well.
Yeah.
He knew when to play the right song at what time, and that dance floor was alive.
Is that where you met him? Was on the show essentially?
No, we met through rodeo. Yep, we
Okay.
met in Airdrie through the rodeo,
Okay.
and yeah, if anybody's looking for a DJ, that guy's
Look,
badass.
hit him up because he's a
Hit Tarek.
badass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's a cowboy, so he's
Yeah.
cool.
Exactly. Um, Dustin, what else do we have? We should I feel
Probably
like
get
we
to the show. This is a long intro.
yeah, I'm sorry. We won't do it much for an extra this week, but I think we better what anything else or should we just get to the interview here?
Oh man, let's get to the interview. January's quiet in the Western world, so let's save some more stories for the next show,
Okay.
and lots of fun stuff to talk about on the next one again.
Yeah. Okay, well this week on the show, oh, okay, one more thing from Dad though. There was one more quote he had that I want to leave everybody with before we get to this episode because I think that this guy we interviewed this week kind of like lives this a lot too, but my dad always told me too that, and I knew when he passed that I'd have all these friggin' dad quotes because he had so many good quotes that are ingrained in my mind. But Dad always said something along the lines of, "You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough."
Oh, that's a good one, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
So Dad definitely did it right, and I think this next guy on the show is doing a hell of a job right now too. Read his book while I was in Hawaii over the holidays. JB Zielke, the guest this week. The forward of his book was done by another guest of the show, Coulter Wall. You may have heard JB on a couple other shows the last little while, but Brady Dinwoody actually introduced me to him by text message like months before, and I didn't realize the connection and didn't know what was happening. We kind of talked about it, but I got busy for the summer. Didn't get him on the show, but we got him hooked up in Vegas, which was better anyways to do it in person. But make sure to go buy his book. You'll enjoy the heck out of it. I read it in like maybe like an afternoon and a half. Like it's very well written. It's written in these little like 1,000 word pieces essentially. So it's a bunch of little stories from his travels. But he did cowboy. He's done cowboy shit on 6 of the 7 continents on the planet. Um, and I think if I'm right, my dad probably did oil shit, like did some drilling on 6 of the 7 continents in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but anyways, really enjoyed doing the show. Another one from Vegas. I don't know what else to say. Let's just get to the show. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the show this week. back in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is day something. I don't know where we are. Day 4? Oh, it's only day 4.
I've been here forever.
It doesn't feel like day 4, and it's Sunday, which is also weird. But this show kind of should have probably happened already, but it didn't, and I apologize. But Brady Dinwoody sent me this guy's number back in the spring, and we texted a little bit, and then I got busy with something, and then I forgot. And then I was here in Vegas, and we had Kenny Fiddler on the show the other day, and he's like, "You got to get my buddy JB on the show. We got to get this done." And I'm like, and then he sent me your number, and then I saw that I'd already was texting you in the spring. And I was like, "Well, okay, I got to really do this now. We got to get this done."
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work. So I prefer to do these in person, anyways. This is ideal.
Sure.
But he's the creator of Dusty Vaquero on the Instagram. There's a ton of great video content that you can see. We'll share all the links in the show here. Yeah, he's putting on Dusty Vaquero Days, May 30th and 31st, 2025 in Gillette, Wyoming. He's the author of The Lost Cowboy. You're from Gillette? Is that right?
No,
you said Laramie.
Yeah, now
Laramie.
I've got an office in Laramie. That's kind of where I'm hanging around these days.
Is it in your van?
I
you have an office.
I have a desk and a computer in Laramie, but I live in my van. Yeah.
You were talking about the van. I was like, is it in the van?
No, I do a lot of editing in the van, though.
Okay. But please welcome to the Cowboy Shit podcast, J.B. Zielke. Yeah. Oh, Devin, do you want a chair? No? Okay. Just standing over there texting. Okay. So we got to talk first. Brady Dinwoody. How the hell do you know Brady?
We went to college together.
Okay. I think you told me that.
Yeah, I college rodeoed at University of Wyoming, and that's where Dinwiddie also went, so we became pretty good friends down there.
Okay, awesome. Wasn't UW wasn't Call Braithwaite there at the same time, or is that, I think of the wrong timeline?
I don't know. I don't remember a lot of my college years, unfortunately.
Mine's a little fuzzy too. I get it.
Yeah, there was probably people on the team that I didn't even know their names at times, but Dinwiddie. We kind of overlapped, but he came along towards the end, and he.
Sorry, batteries died. We're talking about Brady Dinwoody in college. UW.
Yep.
You guys got to be good buddies down there.
Yeah, back in the glory days. Dinwiddie was, I don't know, he went to the CNFR 3 or 4 times. I did not.
Bull riding, right?
Yeah, I rode bulls there for a while, and but yeah, me and Dinwiddie have stayed friends for a while now, and I stayed with him last year here at the NFR, and we always end up running into each other in weird places, it seems like. But yeah, he just rolled into town today. I haven't seen him yet.
Did he?
Yeah,
cool.
He's here now. I haven't got to see him yet, but I'm sure I'll see him tonight at Coulter Wall's show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So Coulter. Okay, so Kenny was here the other day, and he mentioned that, like, we were talking kind of before about the music side of things, and he said that you're a bigger connector in the music world than a lot of people might realize, and you're doing your music festival here coming up in May of 2025. But just talk about those relationships, and I forget where you said you met Coulter now, but you were hanging out with him and Brad earlier today.
Yeah.
And the whole Cooper crew as well. But talk about the music side of things, how that all came to be.
Yeah, so I started Dusty Vaquero like probably 2.5 years ago, something like that, and I got to thinking, like, there's a bunch of these really cool YouTube channels that do kind of acoustic videos with different artists, and I had a handful of, like, working cowboy buddies that were making music, but it seemed like they weren't getting the attention that they should. And so I just started with a couple local Wyoming guys that I knew, and it very quickly snowballed, and I realized there was a ton of these people out there that were, they're too busy ranching to get into town and play shows, and they're great musicians, but they just, maybe music's not their priority, or, they don't have other options, things like that. So I started going out and finding these people and shooting music videos with them. And also, I've worked with people like Coulter, which Coulter doesn't need my help promoting in any way. And I think when Coulter, when we've done videos before, it's more of a nod from Coulter back to these guys that are kind of up and comers, in the cowboy music world, and it's not just that old, typical cowboy songs, cowboy poetry. There's like Kenny is super rock and roll, and so it's a pretty broad spectrum of guys that I've worked with on that channel.
Where'd the name come from, and who was the first one?
The very first shoot that I ever did was it was actually two different dudes that we just did at the same time. Kellen Smith, who's from Gillette, and he'll be playing the festival this year. Kellen is like a 6th or 7th generation rancher up there. Amazing musician. So we shot out on his place, and then also Sterling Drake was there. So the two of them were the first guys I ever like sat down and did a shoot with. The name Dusty Vaquero, I wish there was a cool story behind that, but there's not.
It's not a college nickname or something?
No. I just thought, I was like, I should do something with Vaquero, and then I just started throwing adjectives in front of it and seeing which one sounded the coolest. So I just made it up, and as I was driving one day, and I maybe should have put more thought into it, but it turned out pretty cool, I think.
It's a unique brand. I don't know. I've never heard anybody else anywhere really even similar.
Yeah, it's it takes up a lot of my time now. Like that's pretty much what 75% of my time is spent doing now.
Video editing and
and driving and shooting and going to shows. I do the whole video series on YouTube, but I also do, like, for guys like Kenny and stuff, I'll go on the road with them and do live shows.
Oh, wow.
And then I don't post it. I just create content for them. So
really?
It's mostly my own series, but I do quite a bit of content creation for different guys too.
Oh, really? Huh. So the video side of things, though, came from the travel.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to ask, like, you've probably told lots of people before, anybody that's heard you on a different show before knows the why behind the travel on the cowboying on six of the 7 continents on the planet so far. But I got to go back to that because that was the starter for all this.
Right.
That's now you're doing a whole music festival in May, which I think's
right.
pretty kick-ass too.
Yeah, when I was traveling, I realized pretty quickly that I was in places that probably a lot of people will never see. And so I was traveling with this old, like, 16 gig iPhone that I'd take one picture and it would be full. And so after doing that in like 4 countries, I realized maybe I should actually take a real camera with me. So I bought the cheapest camera that Nikon makes, and I started packing a camera with me while I was traveling. And then I got back to... after I finished traveling, a friend of mine was like, video is the next big thing, and maybe you should try creating some video. And I didn't have a camera that would do that, so I went out and I bought a Sony A7 III, a very typical camera at the time, and I just transferred all, like, most of the things that work for photography are fairly similar for video. So I just started... My intention was to shoot, like, cool ranching stuff, and then the music came along, and that's what really kind of took off. So I still do shoot, like, I went up with Coulter this past fall and did a big roundup up there that was like a 3-day roundup, and shot a bunch of video of all that. And I go to some wild rodeos and stuff and shoot video, but mostly it's music related.
Man, there's so many ways we can go here today. But I gotta ask on the book, because the writing side of things has always been of interest to me.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little bit of writing previously, not a lot over the years, but to actually go write the book through the experiences. But I gotta go back and ask the why, though. We never got to that question on, like, why'd you go cowboy around the world? Like, what happened? Like, why'd you go do that?
So I saw a video on YouTube of these guys in Australia catching feral bulls, and I thought, man, what
is a feral bull, for those that don't know?
A feral bull is just in northern Australia, it's very desolate and wide open, and so it's not uncommon. And this happens in the U.S. sometimes still. I don't know about Canada. It's probably less rare or more rare up there. But cattle, when you go bring them in to brand them and stuff every year, you'll miss some of them. And when you do, they end up becoming mavericks. They have no brand on them, and they just kind
Oh.
of run wild.
That doesn't probably happen in Canada, I'm imagining. There's too many. It does? Stuff gets not branded sometimes? Really? Oh, really?
Yeah,
I feel like there's
and-
enough fences where shit would like get gathered back up for the most part. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
alright.
it could probably happen anywhere, but in Australia there was thousands of
Did you
them.
find
They were
any
everywhere.
at Coulter's place? Did you find any wildies up there?
I don't think they did tell me stories because I asked them about that, because that was some great big country that we gathered over the course of 3 days, and I asked them. I said, "Do you ever get any mavericks that just get missed?" And some of those old timers had stories of going back up there in the spring and finding, I don't know, 10, 20 head that had never been found the year before, or somehow got in there, and they'd end up being kind of wild, because if you leave cattle out there wild long enough, they kind of revert to being back to nature, and they kind of
Dang.
turn into like deer. They get really wild when they don't see people for a long time. So I'm sure there are some in certain parts of Canada that
Damn.
people go out and catch. There's a lot down in like South Texas, West Texas, Arizona, that country.
Real desolate area.
Yeah,
That makes
you'll-
sense.
There's a lot of guys. There's guys that make their living going out there and catching mavericks.
Wow.
I think actually Derek Begay,
does.
that's one of the things that he does.
Damn.
So yeah, but in Australia they catch them in a very different way. They use machines and not horses for the most part.
Helicopters at times.
Helicopters and like Toyotas with catch arms on them, and four-wheelers, dirt bikes, stuff like that. So the company I worked for over there, we were in charge of mustering or gathering like 6 million acres, I think, all together. We had contracts on several places, but it probably totaled, it was in the millions. And so you need choppers and stuff, because you can't
Holy
cover
shit.
all that country.
So you said company, and
Mm-hmm.
I gotta ask, because in the very first part of the book that I got to before we got to do this, you talk about going to meet these guys in the outback.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like much of a company. It sounded like some random guy you got kind of connected to, and it sounded a little dodgy when you're getting to go
Yeah.
meet the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I went over there, the connection was there was a girl doing a study abroad program at University of Wyoming, and I asked her, long story short, she connected me to somebody over there. Her brother happened to own one of these companies that catches wild bulls. And so she lined me up with him, but it was very shoddy communication, and I wasn't really sure what I was getting into, but he gave me a time and a place to be. And so I was there, and nobody was there to pick me up. It was this little dirt airstrip in the middle of nowhere, and I was just there was one Aboriginal guy there driving a tractor to refuel the plane, and he had never heard of the guy who was supposed to be picking me up. I got pretty worried about that, but I sat there for probably an hour or two, and those guys finally showed up and picked me up.
How hot was it? Like, what time of year were we there?
This would have been the equivalent to their winter time.
Oh, so it wasn't 46 Fahrenheit in the outback.
No, it was
46 Celsius. In the
There
outback.
was days where it was 40.
Okay, so it wasn't super cold.
It was
cold, but not
no,
unbearably cold.
40 Celsius.
Celsius. Okay, so it was smoking hot at times.
It
Okay.
would get hot because
Okay.
in that northern part of Australia, it's probably
Oh, it's close to the equator. Isn't
yeah.
it?
That's
Closer.
so that would be like being somewhere in probably southern Mexico or something like that. It's hot. It's very hot.
One of the tropics, I guess, not the equator, but it's closer. It's further north.
Yeah, and it's very similar. I've been told that the environment there is kind of like the Serengeti of Africa. So if you can picture the Serengeti, that's essentially what that country looked like just big flat grasslands with some little trees and stuff around.
Dang. Dang. There's, but okay. So I got to go back though. Like, why did you go to Australia? Like, and what were you doing before this? What was your path? Like, where were you at in life to just go off and like, I want to go do this? Like,
Yeah.
How are you making a living? Like, what? Like,
I
where were you?
was a full-time student at university, and
Oh, really? So
I
did you
was-
like quit school and just go do this?
I
So
went
screw
on
it.
I went on summer break.
Oh,
the
really?
4 months that we had, and
So you weren't rodeoing then at that point either.
I had gotten a pretty bad wreck in Casper and got kicked in the head by a bull, and I didn't quit after that, but it was kind of all downhill after that, and I probably should have hung it up before I did, but I wasn't there to win anymore, and I was mentally I shouldn't have been getting on anymore.
You get scared.
Yeah.
I had the same thing happen. I wrecked my shoulder, and I never was right after.
Right.
I had a brace on my shoulder, and I was just like, this shit's fucking scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly,
So
like you could like get killed.
Yeah, I was
shit
constantly.
my pants one time in the practice pen.
Yeah.
I got hung up by my foot and I crap my pants.
Yeah, I was constantly
dying.
just scared of getting wrecked out, and I hadn't been my whole career. And then once that happened, I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. It's not even fun. So that left a huge void in my life when rodeo went away, and so I was looking for the next thing to kind of look forward to. And so it was between. I had one semester of college left, and I went to Australia during the summer and
Never
worked
finished
that
school.
job. And I came back and finished.
You did, Kay. Good job.
I finished. And
From where did you say? Did you say Laramie?
University of Wyoming.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
What do you have for a degree?
I've got a degree in veterinary science. It's like pre-vet, basically.
Okay, yeah.
I had intended to be a vet, and that never happened. And then I also got another degree in agribusiness.
Okay. So you got a 4-year. You're a bachelor of something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bachelor of agribusiness. Sorry. So you're done rodeo, and then you're 22, 3, 4,
21. I was 21 when I went to
21.
Australia.
and then you like you're finding yourself essentially. Like you're like I want to go do this, but like okay, I gotta like again. Why there, and like what prompted the Australia?
It was
Besides
just
the girl from there that was doing the university program.
It was just that video of them catching bulls I saw on YouTube. I thought that might be something that would give me the same rush that riding bulls did, and so it had just stuck in my mind. And then when the opportunity came, I jumped on it.
Really?
Yeah.
So, how far back? I'm sorry, this is kind of weird with the brand with Cowboy Sh, but like, I told a guy. I clearly remember telling a guy when I was first living in Calgary, Brian Hansen at Smith Built Hats. He makes hats at a hat shop. Like it was a handcrafted hat shop in Calgary, Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
They do a ton of business during the Calgary Stampede, and it's like grown to be a whole nother thing now. But I told Brian, I was like, Brian, I just want to be able to do cowboy shit every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was done school at the time, or kind of in school. Maybe I was at the university at the time. But like, started the first company, like the Everything Cowboy back in the day, and then I was like, Brian, I just really love doing cowboy shit. And like I don't even get to ride every day.
Mm-hmm.
I hardly ride at all. Like I'm riding more now than I ever have in a long time. But like I really love horses, and I really love being around all this stuff, and I want to live out of town again.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up around horses, but like I gotta ask, like for you, what was your path like as far as being around the Western world?
Getting into so my family has nothing to do with agriculture.
No shit.
And so growing up, I was 7 or 8, and my mom worked at the grocery store, and I lived in a pretty small town, only grocery store, so she knew everybody in town. And there was a lady that had a bunch of horses in town, and she was always telling my mom, you should bring your boys out, and we'll get them on horses and see what they think. And I was probably about 7 when we went out and did that, and I just got hooked on it right away. I loved it. I'd never been around it, and so I would ride my bike every free moment I had that I wasn't playing sports or in school. I would ride my bike. It was 6-7 miles out to this place, and I'd ride my bike out there and work for this lady, and I'd make a little bit of money, like, $5, $10 here and there, and I saved that up. And by the time I would have been like 11 or 12. I might have been 10, but I bought a kill pen horse for $500.
No way.
And I would work off his feed bill, and then I would try and take that horse and do what I could to help the neighbors and maybe make a little bit of day wages and stuff. It was a 30-year-old, bag of bones that somebody was sending off to the killer, but that was my first jump into it, really.
No
and
way.
Around that time, I also started getting on calves at the local rodeo, and kind of got in. Rodeo seemed to me to be because I didn't come from any kind of like ranch lineage, so I didn't have an in really, especially as a 12-year-old kid. So I kind of clung to rodeo to stay in that world, and then it just went on from that.
Huh. So you get to Australia. When do you start feeling like you're living again after bull riding? How long until it's like, holy shit, this is cool, and I want to go see what the next place is. I want to go where, when does the every continent with horses come into play?
So that was after Australia. I was there 3 or 4 months.
We gotta
came
talk
back.
about Australia a little bit too.
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll do that later. But go ahead.
it's not the shortest answer about how I got around to all the continents, but after I got back from Australia, I went back and finished my degree, and I heard somebody that had a master's talking about how they were getting passed up. At this time, I still fully intended to have like a regular 9 to 5 or cowboy job or something like, and but they were telling me that they were getting passed over with a master's degree by people that had high school diplomas that were bilingual. And I started thinking, well, I don't speak another language. Maybe I need to know another language. And so that kind of planted the seed of maybe I should go cowboy somewhere where they speak Spanish and I could pick up Spanish. And Mexico seemed too dangerous for what I knew at the time. And Brazil spoke Portuguese. So then Argentina was the next reasonable option. So I went to Argentina and mostly to learn Spanish, but I also worked with the gauchos and played a bit of polo and stuff down there. And once I got back from there, I bought a bunch of livestock, sold everything I owned, my diesel pickups, trailers, everything, and bought a bunch of livestock. And long story short on that is it went very bad, and I lost almost everything in the following year. And so I was pretty down and out, and I had my 15-year-old brother living with me at the time, and we were living out of a $600 Buick that I had bought off somebody in town. It was me, my brother, 2 dogs, saddle tied to the top of it, and we were just living out on government land for a month or two, camping out. And he went back to school that fall and told all of his teachers he had the greatest summer ever because he got to go camping the whole time. He had no idea we were homeless, but during that time, he saw that I was, kind of in a bad place, and he was like, well, why don't you get back to doing what you like doing, traveling? And he said, you've already cowboyed on 3 of the 6 possible continents. You could go for the rest. And so it wasn't until then that really became a goal. I thought, I could probably do that.
How much of an age difference is there between you two?
He is 7 years younger than me.
7 years younger.
Yep.
So you finished school and then you have a wreck with losing everything and you got nothing.
Yeah.
And so you're starting over from zero, I guess.
Yeah. I had
Holy
nothing.
shit.
I went and worked. I went and cut hay for a couple months and saved up like $2,000, and I figured that was enough to take off and start traveling again. And then I had a set goal that I was going to go to every continent that had cattle on it.
So is this in order of? It seems like it's in order of.
Yeah, that's
time.
chronological order.
So Sweden is financial ruin.
Yeah.
So that's number one when you got nothing, but you go to Sweden.
Right.
How do you choose Sweden and to get back on your feet essentially to get? You had $2,000, so you say going to Sweden.
Yeah.
What's the connection to go there?
When I had all that livestock, I went through this program called Ranching for Profit, and when I was in that program, it's like a week-long course for ranchers. It's a great educational program. And while I was there was a girl from Sweden in that class, and she had never seen a sheep operation before. And so I told her, I said, if you have any desire after this is done, the ranch isn't that far from here. You can come see this deal that I'm managing and check out the sheep outfit. And so she spent a day or two seeing that, and she said, well, my family has a ranch in Sweden. If you ever want to come, let me know. And that was probably 6-8 months prior to everything going wrong. So I knew I had a connection and in already. And so when my brother said that, I thought, well, I'm going to call her, and that's going to be the next place that I go to.
Holy. So then what the hell do they ranch in Sweden? It's a
Cattle
ranch?
Yeah, it
No
was
way.
beef
I guess there's
cattle.
already cattle almost everywhere in the world, technically,
Yeah.
but just don't really know about it as much.
That place was very special because I don't know if this is all of the EU or just in Scandinavia, but they've got some weird laws where there's caps on how much land you can privately own. So legally, you cannot own enough land to really have a great big ranch in Sweden. And this family had a very special situation where they leased out an entire military base that was a panzer division. So they needed all these big pastures where they could run tanks around and practice with them. And so they had, I don't know, it was like a 20 or a 50-year lease that they had on that place. And so they were the only people in Sweden, to my knowledge, that had a place that size. And they were also very well-traveled, the whole family. And in their travels, they had seen that they preferred working cattle horseback as opposed to dirt bikes and four-wheelers and stuff like that. And so they took all these like hunter jumper horses, because you don't really, there's no working horses in Sweden.
Not the same like here.
What's that?
Not the same like North America.
Right. You
Not even
can't go
close.
buy like a working ranch horse in Sweden.
And you don't want to buy one here because it costs you more than the
It
horse
would-
is worth to ship it.
Yeah, a ton to ship it over there. So they were buying these horses that were, English broke horses.
Reject jumpers.
Yeah.
Hunter jumpers.
And they would
They bucked off their young horse girl.
exactly. Exactly.
And they're probably pretty nice horses. There's probably some really nice horses.
They were good enough for what we needed, and they would
a
import
little tall
like,
sometimes.
yeah, they were
Maybe.
pretty tall.
Yeah.
But they imported Western saddles from the U.S. or Canada, and then they'd go out and start using these horses to work cattle and get them pretty broke and handy to work a cow on.
So this was a bit newer, the conversion on the Western side of things for them. That like the Western riding wasn't something they'd already done a lot of. Is that
There's very few people that ride Western in Sweden, and if they do, it's
anywhere in Europe? I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, Europe in general. And if they do, it's like probably because it's more comfortable to trail ride in a Western saddle than English.
Yeah.
That would be it. But there's not cowboys over there. Like for example, roping is illegal in Sweden.
Can they even rope them on their own ranch?
No,
They can't
No.
rope on their own ranch.
you can't rope anything. You can't.
What?
Branding is you can brand, I think, but you have to lidocaine
shoot
and
or
all.
what?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of restrictions. No hormones of any kind. So you can't sink cattle to AI them. You can't collect bulls. You can't electroejaculate bulls. You can't. Importing semen's very expensive. So for them, they just bought like 2 to 3 times the amount of bulls they thought they needed because they're not even tested. So you're buying bulls that you just hope are fertile, but you can't legally fertility
That's
test.
kind of bizarre.
They dealt with a whole bunch of
Bullshit.
government
Bureaucratic
regulations that we
bullshit.
don't. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. So what's the experience like in Sweden?
It was very mellow. Like probably the most interesting part was just them dealing with the government, like trying to be ranchers while still staying within the government's guidelines. But other than that, Sweden is like a pretty tame, gentle place.
And I'm looking at the chapters here. It looks like it's the second shortest, so a little less drama in Sweden
Yeah.
than some of the other places.
Yeah, that chapter ended up pretty short because I didn't really have that many wild stories from there. It was cool to
Yeah.
see, but not like Australia, not like Argentina, where there's wild stuff happening all the time.
Yeah. Damn. Okay, and like Argentina. So I got to go back. So you go to Sweden, then South Africa,
hmm
and then Mongolia is the last one. So
Mexico and then Mongolia.
yeah, Mexico, then Mongolia. So I was just talking on continents. Mongolia is the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. We got to go to Argentina for a second. Matt's here, our resident polo expert.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, you got to ask JB here a little bit on the polo side of things. Just you guys got to talk a little polo and a little Argentina because I don't know a lot about it. Wyatt Anton, you might know who Wyatt is. He lived at the house, at my house for a long time when he was going to the UFC. But he spent some time with the Mannixes in Argentina at their place there.
Okay.
Like he helped out a few things.
Yeah, no, not that one doesn't ring a bell for me. I mean, number one, I'm fascinated with your story in general. And I think it's so cool that somebody in the cowboy world also plays polo. Usually you find polo players who are cowboys, but
Right.
yeah. But Argentina. That's really cool. I've never been myself. My brother was down there for a while, but we were chatting about it a little bit before the podcast started, and I just find it, awesome that you're involved with it, and it's
You
really
got to
cool.
try it out.
Yeah, I got to try it out.
How did you end up with the? Because you're probably in some really wild ass places in Argentina. They're
Yeah.
really like the more like Western wild stuff going on, but then you get to the polo guys. They're a little more, probably a little more less crazy. I
Well,
would imagine.
correct me if I'm wrong, but Argentina is also a little wild too. Hey, like
Yeah.
there's some stuff going on there.
Yeah, Argentina's wild, and polo is a very rich sport in most parts of the world. That's not necessarily true in Argentina, because I mean everybody play it, regardless of income level. They play it down there. Whereas you go to Europe or here in the States, and I mean you're paying 25, 30 grand for a decent playing horse,
Yeah.
and those guys are playing it every day. We were talking before, like they're going around practicing just using sticks to hit rocks on the ground. The same way you see little kids running around here at the NFR swinging a rope and healing their dad and practicing that way. That's what Argentinians do for polo. So it is somewhat of a rich sport in Argentina, but it's not the same as other places. Like everybody can play it.
Yeah. And just for Ted, Argentina's like the polo capital of the world. Like it's like hockey in Canada, but times 1,000. So
well, it's like bull riding in Brazil, probably too.
Yeah, same.
Something similar.
Same kind of deal.
They have a number system, the same like team ropers, and a 10-goaler is the best in the world. And I don't know currently, but generally there'll be 20 10-goalers in Argentina, and there might be maybe one in the United States.
Yeah.
Probably like an 8. But and that's true for Europe and stuff too. Like when they do their World Cup, it's Argentina versus the world, and Argentina always wins.
Always wins by
like it's
a
not even a
landslide.
competition.
Yeah. The highest Canadian ever was Fred Mannix. Actually, he got to 9, and he made it to the finals of the Open one year with Team Alegria. Now he had 3 Argentinian people on his team that were all 10 goals. So, is it really Canadian? But that's kind of our proud moment with him is being 9 goals. Yeah, and he's got a massive breeding operation down there. I'm sure you've probably seen some of those operations down there. They're insane what they're doing with artificial insemination and
cloning.
Cloning, like you go onto a field now, Ted, and Adolfo Cambiaso is the best polo player in the world by miles. Some people say he'd be 15 goals if he could go to 15, and his son now is doing really well and is 10 goals, and he won the Open a couple years ago with him, so it's really cool. But where was I going with this?
Was it Cambiaso had an entire string of the same horse?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he had an entire string of the exact same horse.
It was a cloned horse.
It's all clones. Yeah,
he played like 6 of the same horse, identical
Holy
clones.
shit.
Yeah. One of the guys in California that my brother was working for, they cloned their dog. Yeah, yeah, just because they love the dog.
There's some serious money in polo.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Might be in the wrong business, man.
Yeah, and he's in a genetics degree, so I'm sure you with your veterinary background, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool what they're doing.
Interesting.
It's a little bit apocalyptic in a sense too, but but kind of cool. Yeah.
Damn. Okay, sorry. Thanks, Matt. I wanted to get that in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt, the intern. Well done. Man, there's just like we could do hours of this part of the adventure.
Probably could, yeah.
Damn.
Well,
so
you can always buy the book on Amazon and read the whole thing.
Once again, The Lost Cowboy, J.B. Zielke, forward by Coulter Wall. Also, thanks, Devin. Got the motel key in there as well. But once again, The Lost Cowboy on Amazon. I think I saw it for $24.95, if I saw it correctly.
It's also on Audible, so if you're a book listener, it's on Audible.
You can also get it on your Kindle, if you're a Kindler, whatever that is. That's one of those book things, I think, right? I like to read a real book or an audio book sometimes if I'm driving. But, okay, then you're going to go, how much time do you want to spend on the book side, like on this side of it?
Whatever
like
you
on the show?
want.
Well, like tell me like, we don't have to just run through the book and everything on what some couple stories and whatnot, but like you've told this to other people, so I want to make this different than other shows you've done. So like where do you want to spend time in the next? The show closes in 45 minutes, so we got probably at least a half an hour. Where do you want to go to next? You just spitball.
I mean, Mongolia is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Argentina and Mongolia are probably 2 of the more exciting ones.
More exciting ones. So let's go. But we got to talk South Africa a little bit too, because my assumption is it's a little bit like the Sweden side of things, because South Africa is probably one of the more, I don't know what I say, one of the more developed parts of Africa as far as
as far as Africa
things,
goes. Yeah.
Right. You weren't ranching out in the middle of in the Congo.
No.
In the jungle.
No, I worked on like 4 or 5 different outfits in Africa,
Well,
South
and
Africa.
Where were they? Were they?
They were almost. I think every one of them was a mixture of sheep and cattle,
Oh, really?
and there was some crop farming. A couple of them raised corn and stuff like that too. But
yeah,
I
because
always,
there'd be plenty of that kind of agriculture, I guess,
Yeah.
everywhere. It's kind of mind-boggling. I haven't been to Africa yet. Been to Europe a little bit.
yeah, Africa is
You got one
eye-opening.
Sorry, I just want to jump in again. Not to make it polo, but when you were in South Africa, were you around polo at all down there? Because they're pretty serious too about it.
Yeah, I never played. I didn't like go to any clubs, but in Howick is where I flew in, and there's a big polo club there, and there's a ton of Argentinians that live in South Africa that play polo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
they love it
cool.
down there too.
And
Damn.
it's kind of same thing with Argentina. They're really good. Like 6-7 goalers, just
Yeah.
throw them out and you're gonna hit somebody.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
They're
Anyway,
great.
sorry, not to interrupt
That's
you guys.
great.
My bad.
No, that's okay. So what's the connection like? And how long are you in Sweden for? What's the story with Sweden? How long did you go to Argentina for in Australia? Like, what's the timeline here now? Because I'm assuming you're about like late 20s, early 30s now. I don't know what age you are.
I am
guess early 30s.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the goal with the traveling, I wanted to go to every continent before I was 25.
Oh
So
wow.
this
So you
all
did all
happened-
that within like 2 years.
It was 21 to 25 that
Holy
I
smokes.
did all this traveling. So
Holy shit.
that was so Australia was I think 3 or 4 months. Then Argentina was about. I intended to stay in Argentina as long as I possibly could. The last place I worked was on this big ranch that was kind of in a swamp, and I ended up getting what doctors think was Zika, and my liver shut down. I had stage 1 liver failure, and I didn't know that down there, but I got really sick, and I finally decided I don't want to deal with this down here. I should probably go home and figure out what's wrong.
Holy
And
shit.
so that I was down there for 3 or 4 months roughly. Sweden.
Wait, but you got to tell the story quick on getting the Zika virus and your liver shutting down.
Mhm.
When you get home, how long does that take you out for? And then like you're on the road like this, and you don't probably have any sort of health insurance to fall back on. I don't even know what that's like for you in when you get home to the U.S. But like,
Yeah.
healthcare is not cheap anywhere you go.
Yeah, that was I would have been like 23, I think, when that I was 23 when that happened. I came back, they did a ton of testing, basically narrowed it down and said the only thing they could figure is that it probably was that Zika. But they didn't have the tests or whatever to confirm it. But at that time, luckily, I think my mom had health care. And here in the U.S., you can stay on your parents until I think you're 25. So I was lucky there that I did have some health care. But
Damn.
basically, I had to just live really clean and take it easy for about 6 months or a year
shit.
and let my liver heal up.
Regenerate.
Yeah.
We got a customer. We got to take a quick break.
All right.
Matt's on it. We're trying to sell some stuff at the same time here.
Hey,
Doing a
this
live
is a business. We're trying to sell stuff.
Yeah, it's all good. Shit. So come home from Argentina. Then the next one is Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're home for a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe. Then you go to South Africa. We talked a little bit about South Africa. Do we want to touch on South Africa much more?
That kind of cover. I mean, Africa is just that was a really soul shaking place. Like
How so?
just being around. I mean, Africa by no means is a wealthy country, and
Not at
so it's
Probably
pretty
the least
good.
wealthy continent.
Yeah,
in the world.
absolutely. They're well off as a whole compared to the rest of most of Africa, but still like some of the poorest people that I've ever met. And you see some pretty incredible things there with people living the way that they do. So that was kind of the takeaway from Africa, though, it really opened my eyes to how some people live in this world.
Were you mostly in South Africa, or were you also in other parts of the continent?
I pretty much was in South Africa, and then I was also there's a little tiny landlocked country called Lesotho, and I was in Lesotho I went there a couple days and just kind of checked it out. But yeah, it was pretty much entirely the country of South Africa.
Oh wow, okay. So, how long were you in South Africa for? And who were you there with, and what were the connections to end up there?
That was kind of wild how I ended up there because I had no connections and I didn't know what to do. So I went on Facebook and found every farmer group on Facebook in South Africa that I
Really?
could find, and I just posted all over all of them, telling people that I would work for food and a place to sleep.
Really?
And I ended up finding the Future Farmers Foundation down there, which is it's a program that takes kids from pretty rough situations, and they place them on farms and ranches and teach them agricultural skills that will give them a career. So I ended up working with them, and they helped me out a ton. And then I traveled around to kind of their partners, I guess, and I worked with a bunch of those kids that were in that program. And so I worked on 4 or 5 different places around there.
Damn. And then come home and go to Mexico, Chihuahua.
Yeah, I went
Inland Mexico, for those that are not aware. It's not really on the tourist destination.
No, that's a very, very rough part of Mexico. That's the part you see on the news, not the part you see on people's Instagram.
So mine was on Instagram one time, maybe before Instagram existed. We went to a rodeo in Chihuahua.
Mm-hmm.
It was called an international pro rodeo of sorts, but I was going to school in Hobbs, New Mexico at the time, and we drove to Albuquerque to fly down there, and there was 3 people on the plane. It was 2009. It was during the big swine flu stuff, and there was a big thing about Mexico, don't go to Mexico because of the swine flu side of things.
Right.
And we, so the people doing the promoting, I had went to Brazil earlier in the summer. I was 19, so I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were like, "Go do it! When the hell else are you gonna get a free trip to go see Chihuahua, Mexico, to go to this rodeo?" So they're my parents are always take the opportunities, go and see shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because I did the same thing with Brazil early in the year, we went and rodeoed. So I got to ride bulls in 4 countries in 2 months that summer. That was that was an extreme 19-year-old summer. It was pretty incredible time, right? So I'm don't know anybody. I'm yeah, shit, I'll go to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Just drive down to New Mexico, to Hobbs, and then we flew, and there was nobody on the plane, so it was a little bit scary.
Yeah.
And it's the middle of the drug wars and shit's going down in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I was I don't want to drive across the border. I don't want to drive down there. But if you fly us, we'll go.
Yeah.
So we flew in there, and nobody on the plane. And then we get there, and we're staying at like a Holiday Inn or a Hampton or something. It was very nice, a beautiful hotel. I was shit, we're totally fine here. We're all good. But then one of the girls that came with us, she had her phone out and was trying to videotape the army guys with all their machine guns.
Oh yeah, bad idea.
Yeah, bad idea. I was I saw her go to do it, and I was just
don't do that.
I went and she had her phone. I was just no, just sit here and look straight forward. Don't do anything to provoke the Mexican National Army. Yeah, but ended up being an unreal time. We had a great time. Yeah, it was. Specifics I was introduced to Red Bull and vodka that weekend. As a 19-year-old, I woke up Sunday morning and my heart was jumping out of my chest. I believe freaking out a little bit and almost missed the flight. What else happened? Steven Turner came with me. He won a bunch of money in the calf roping.
Sweet.
We were on a baseball field. Anyway, sorry, random story. But they had the PBR Global Cup or World Cup a couple years before in Chihuahua. So I knew a little bit, and I was we'll be all right. But anyways, you went to Chihuahua and we're ranching in Chihuahua.
Yeah, I was
in Chihuahuan Desert, which is
pretty much so the capital of the state of Chihuahua is also the city of Chihuahua,
where Pancho Villa originated. Isn't that right? Or who is it?
That was his. I don't know if he certainly ran that country.
Name? I thought it was somebody else. Because Steve went to his castle or some shit. There was some.
It could have been Santa Ana too.
Oh, okay. I forget. Anyway, sorry. Random.
Well, anyways, yeah. So Mexico was a kind of what you would expect. There was a lot of illegal things happening and sketchy things going on, and
we can read about that in the book.
Yep, that's in the book. That was kind of a wild story too. How I ended up down there. I was in Rome. When I was in Sweden, I took a week or 2 off to go travel around. So I went to Barcelona and then I went to Rome because I wanted to see all the stuff there, and not ranching or anything, but just walking around. And I was in this basement nightclub one night, and everybody's dancing. And it's 3 a.m. and it's dark.
How many drugs were they on?
No clue.
All of them?
Untold amounts.
Damn.
And so this guy walks by really quickly, and he smacks this like fiery little Italian chick on the ass,
Uh-oh.
and he
Bad
just keeps
idea.
on going, and
Hopefully he
she
knew
turns
her.
around. No, he did not. She turns around, and the guy standing next to me, who I did not know, she threw her drink in his face and smacked the shit out of him. And he hadn't done anything wrong, but he was
Oh.
standing in the wrong spot.
Oh, shit. She thought it was him.
She thought it was him. And
Uh-oh.
so I'm giggling, but I also turned to this guy. I'm like, man, I shouldn't be laughing. But that was kind of funny. You're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And he laughed it off too. But turned out he was Mexican, and I was like, man, I would have never thought I'd meet a Mexican in Rome.
Yeah.
So I get to talking to him, and he's like, why are you in Europe? I told him about all this traveling I was doing, and he goes, well, my dad has a big ranch in Mexico if you ever want to go.
No way.
And so I just stayed in touch on Facebook, and it was like a year later that I ended up down there working on his dad's ranch in
Really?
Mexico.
No shit.
Yeah.
And so illegal activities, you can't probably say who it was that you were hanging out with. We don't need to talk about that side of it. But
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happened down there that I couldn't put in the book
In the
that
book.
I was not
and you don't want to talk about either because it probably would endanger your safety.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Holy
much.
shit.
Oh, and the people that I worked for down there. So
Yeah.
I tried to keep it as vague, like paint the picture, but it's pretty vague because there's certain things that I didn't want like blowing back on me or people around me.
Yeah,
But
fair enough.
there was, it was all around us all the time. The reason I wrote this book is because when I was in Mexico, this story is in the book. I kind of just accidentally ended up in the middle of a big gunfight between two rival cartel factions.
Holy shit.
And
Is that one of the questions I had kind of cooked up as we got talking was when did you feel like you were going to die in this adventure?
there
in that
was
place?
a lot of times, but that time specifically,
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was laying on the floor in this like stucco house, and I knew the bullets wouldn't come through the house or through the walls, but the old lady I was living with in Mexico, she's like, just stay in your room and lay below window level so you don't catch a stray bullet. They weren't looking for me. It wasn't like they were after me, but I dang sure could have. I mean, they're fighting in the street right in front of the house, so
Fully
coulda caught 'em.
automatic weapons? too?
Yeah, I couldn't count how many thousands of rounds were fired
Holy
out there.
shit.
And so that's happening, and I'm laying on the ground, and I got to thinking, I very easily could die doing any of this stuff, and I don't want to take it to the grave with me. So that next day, I started writing all this stuff down.
Oh, no
and
way.
I didn't have my laptop or anything, so I was just kind of taking notes. But that was when mortality kind of struck, and I got to thinking I should probably document all this and
Document
have
it.
it somewhere.
Holy shit. So, what about in the previous travels? Like, we're almost at Mongolia now for the folks that are going to get the book, and I hope a lot of people do check it out. And I'm excited about reading it. I'm sorry that I didn't get to read it earlier to
that's
talk
all
more on it. We got more we can visit about than other than just the book. But I read one story. I'll tell you which one I read. I was talking to JB here before we got going. He said to read Hands. It's the 21st story in the Argentina set of things. And we better allude to it a little bit. You better tell a little bit of the story about so people can kind of understand what it is. So the format is all the different countries are laid out from the travels of when you got going, what you got started, and then it goes in order of the timeline of when you experience these different countries, all the way to Mongolia being the last continent that you would cowboy on.
Mm-hmm.
But short little stories. And you said they're about 1,000 words.
Roughly,
and
yeah.
Yeah, and you wrote them, all these stories. You wrote them along the way, different times, but it was specifically when you were doing some night checking some cattle for somebody. I forget who it was.
It was for my grandpa.
For your grandpa, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're doing the night, and you can write about 1,000 words in an hour.
Yeah. So I'd go out and check. He's not my real grandpa, but I consider him my grandpa, and I lived on that ranch for a long time, and so I'd go out
Post
and-
travel, like in the last 5 years, I guess.
In between. So
Okay.
there's big gaps in this book where I don't talk about what's happening in the U.S., but to afford this stuff, I would go travel for 3-4 months, run out of money, come back, and then work on the ranch
Or get
for
sick and
6
the Zika
months.
virus.
Or get sick. And so I would always go back to that ranch and work there. And so I was checking cows at night in the wintertime, and you go out every hour on the hour and ride through them. And so I'd come back into the barn and sit down, and I'd write these stories. So they ended up being kind of short. You can pick up the book, set it down. You don't have to read it all the way through. They're just kind of a bunch of short stories. But that hand story is kind of a favorite that a lot of people bring up, and it happened in Argentina, and my Spanish I was learning as I went, and I thought I knew the word for hands in Spanish, which is manos, and we went out. I was out with these two gauchos riding around, and we rode through some big tall trees, and they kept saying manos peligroso, and which means danger, or at least that's all I got out of what they were saying. And so I was like, I don't know what's dangerous about my hands, but I just kept them really right in the center as we're riding through, thinking that something was gonna.
You're gonna get something from a leaf on a tree or
Poison,
something,
yeah.
poison ivy or whoever the hell knows.
So I'm just keeping my hands together, watching, following behind these guys.
And what were you going to do? What was going on?
We were gathering a pasture. We were going out to just bring a bunch of cows into the yards, and so these guys are up ahead of me, and I see them wheel around and come running back as fast as they can. And I don't know what they're running from because I can see through the trees pretty well. There was nothing on the ground coming after them. And as they pass me going the other direction, and I look up, and there's all these little monkeys swinging through the trees. And I realized afterwards that I had mixed up the words, and because hands in Spanish is manos and monkeys in Spanish is monos. And so they were telling me to watch out for monkeys the whole time. I thought they were telling me to watch my hands. So these monkeys come, and they run us down, and they start slinging shit and trying to pee on us. And it was a monkey piss hurricane in the middle of the forest. So it got pretty western there for a minute.
Bit shitty out there.
Yeah.
Damn. We got to take a quick pause. So. The last part of the adventure is the Mongolia, and I think about Mongolia, and one of the pieces here is Back to Civilization. Number 7 is Uno. Is that the Uno that I'm thinking about, like the
card game? Yeah.
And mare milking. I can't imagine, like Mongolia for me when I think of it as like is Kathmandu in Mongolia, like the little airport they go to?
No, that's in Nepal.
Nepal, okay. But I'm thinking Mongolia is close. It is all still close together. Where Mount Everest, like it's extremely high elevations. I want to say in Mongolia too. Probably I could be wrong, but I don't know my geography very well right now. But
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
But Mongolia is huge, and it's bordered by China. It only, for as big of a country it is, it only has 2 neighbors, and
Russia and China.
Russia and China, and so in the western part of Mongolia are the Altai Mountains, which are very high. They're
And
not
is
part of
that-
the Himalayan range, though.
Is that the Russia side or Russia's north and China's east?
China's south, Russia is north, and
Okay,
so
gotcha.
the Altai Mountains do go up into Russia.
Damn.
But like the Great Wall of China was built to keep out Mongolians. So that southern border is
The Great Wall.
the Great Wall
No
on a
shit.
lot of it.
How do
So
you even get to Mongolia? Number 1.
there's only one city in Mongolia because
fly
for a
into?
very long time, for thousands of years, they've been entirely nomadic there.
No shit.
And so when the Soviet Union took over Mongolia, the Russians were like, look, you can't all just be out there horseback wandering around. We need to have meetings and stuff.
Holy shit.
And so the Russians made them create Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital, and it's the only airport only city and only airport in Mongolia. So you fly into there, and then you can bus or take like little planes to other parts of the country. But pretty much, I think it's 60 or 70% of the country is still nomadic. They live in canvas tents and move around
way.
and live horseback. So
Holy shit.
it's
Still
pretty.
in 2024.
Yeah, and there's very few paved roads. There's definitely not a highway system, and there's hardly a paved road system. So it's just
There's no such thing as
kinda
a phone
2
system
tracks.
either, probably, is there?
very little
Very
service
sporadically.
on the phones, and so that people do have cell phones over there, but you're kind of jumping back several hundred years in time when you go over there.
Holy crap. How do you get hooked up with somebody in Mongolia to go do this?
So I had seen something online where these people were taking. You can go buy horses are very cheap in Mongolia. You can buy a good broke saddle horse for like $500. So I'd seen other people go over there and buy a saddle horse and a pack horse, and then there's also no private land in Mongolia for the most part. It's all public. So as long as you're not bothering anybody, you can ride wherever you want and do whatever you want. So these people will go over there and buy horses and just ride across the country. And that was my intention, was to go over there and do that. And I ended up talking to this guy on Instagram who is an American that spent a lot of time over there. His name's Eric. And Eric had a connection to these people, the last people on Earth that still ride reindeer as their main source of transportation. And so I started asking for advice where I should go, what I should do, and he said, you ought to just come on this trip with me. I'm fixing to go visit these people that ride reindeer, and you have to be a fairly capable person. Like, this is not, I'm not going to hold your hand on this deal, so you got to know what you're doing. And so he convinced me that I should go. I thought, how could I turn that down? That's pretty dang cool. So I ended up going with him and going up to meet these people that ride reindeer. And I spent like 3 weeks up there with 3 weeks. I don't remember what it was. And after that ended, I was pretty much out of money because I'd spent it all on that trip. But the people who were originally going to sell me horses, they just hired me on as a guide, essentially. And so because I knew how to pack and how to my job was to teach tourists how to hobble a horse, how to stake them out at night, saddle, how to tie down loads, stuff like that. And so they just let me stay there for another, I guess it was probably 2 months that I just spent teaching people in English and Spanish how to go live in the middle of nowhere with only your horses.
Who's coming to do that?
You'd be surprised. And these people that would come do it had far less horse experience than I did. And I was nervous about it. And these Europeans, Americans, Australians would show up, and they would tell me these stories like, oh, my mom had a horse when I was a kid, or things like that. I mean, had very, very little horse experience. And they would show up and they'd spend a week with me, and we'd go out and I'd put them on 6 or 7 different horses, let them try them out, see which ones they liked, which ones they were could handle. And so we'd go out and ride, and then every afternoon I'd give them lessons on, this is how you hobble a horse, this is how you stake one, this is how you put your pack saddle on, secure your loads, these are the knots you need to know, and this is how you treat small wounds, saddle sores, stuff like that. And so they'd spend 3 to 6 days with me learning that stuff, and then the company I worked for would just sell them the horses and say, good luck. If you never come back, we don't care. But if you do, we'll buy the horses back from you. So it was kind of an unguided trail ride, but very extreme.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's nuts. How are you making a living now?
Off the book and doing all the Dusty Vaquero video stuff, and then I still day work when I can. I'm always traveling around, so I'll get some day work in Wyoming. I go to Texas pretty regular and work for some friends down there too. So it's kind of a mixture of those 3 things right now.
When a song isn't released on YouTube, can you help claim part of the revenue with the artist? Like, are you guys splitting some of that on helping them out that way, or
so
how does that work when it's not? Does the label own those still?
They still own them. I don't fully understand how that all works, but what I do know is artists pay for ASCAP, and there's protections on their music.
Yeah.
And basically what those do is if I post a video of these artists,
they get
through that we split the revenue.
Okay, cool.
So it collects it for them, basically.
Yeah, perfect.
But that's I don't make very much money off the YouTube channel. Puts a couple tanks of gas in my van every month, and that's about it.
Yeah. I wrote down. I was gonna look up what the definition of inferences was. I don't know what
inference.
That yeah, because I got thinking about what the inferences of the cowboy that you've seen in 6 different continents on the planet. There's, we as North American cowboys, we're from up north, obviously from Canada, but you guys, the cowboy is a worldwide symbol. The cowboy hat is a worldwide symbol, and I don't know if I got to figure out what the hell that word is, but it made me think about what you learned or what some of your thinking end up being. I'm not sure if it's in the book. It very well may be. Some of those pieces might be in here on your thoughts, but
Yeah, there's some in the book. I think what it comes down to is, people got to eat everywhere, and so beef or just meat animals in general are pretty much everywhere on Earth, and they have been for a very long time. And people, so we call them cowboys here. They call them ringers in Australia. They call them vaqueros in Mexico, gauchos in South America. They have different names, different styles, but at the end of the day, everybody's just trying to raise animals and feed their families and their communities, and the end goal is the same: to raise healthy animals. And there's subtle differences in how they get there, but at the end of the day, cattle, sheep, goats, things like that, they're just essentially harvesters for what some of these rough, rangy areas that you're not going to grow corn or soybeans there. They're rocky, they're rough, and the grass that grows on those hillsides is harvested by these animals. And that pretty much worldwide is what people are doing, is just trying to raise healthy animals to feed their families.
and because what are the people in Mongolia like? You can't just go to 7-Eleven and get lunch. You can't
No.
go to Papa John's and get a sandwich on the way around Mongolia.
Right.
How are the folks eating and living every day as nomads, like still in 2024?
They produce 100% of what they use themselves.
Sure.
Most of those people don't have a cent. I mean, they
Really?
don't have money. They produce what they need, so they produce all their own leather. They'll trade horses or cattle or whatever if they need a new tent or something like
Wow.
that. But they produce all their own food, and they don't farm. They're not farmers.
So what are they doing to produce food?
It's all animal byproducts, all
Holy
of it.
crap.
They might go occasionally go trade for some like noodles, rice, things like that, but for the most part it's just boiled meat all the time and a ton of dairy products.
Really?
So that's where the mare milking came in. We'd milk mares like 4 or 5 times a day, milk the
Oh, shit.
cows. It was, and
That's
so
what you had to do to eat.
yeah, that was how they survived. If you don't do that, you don't eat.
What's the wildest shit you ate on this journey of the world?
The wildest thing I drank was in
Horse milk is
Mongolia.
fucking crazy.
Horse milk,
I
yeah.
never heard of that before.
So they
Can you get
drink
horse cheese too then?
Yeah, you can make whatever yogurt,
Holy
whatever you
shit.
want. But their big thing there is called ereg, and ereg is fermented mare's milk. And so we'd milk the mares every day, and we'd take that milk and dump it into 2 goat skins that were sewn together with like an opening at the top. And those goat skins had in that like leather bag was an old bacteria culture that some of them were multi-generational, just like people do with sourdough here. And it would ferment that milk because they had no electricity or refrigeration. So the only way to keep that milk from going bad was to ferment it. And then that was one of their main things that they consumed. So you're just drinking fermented horse milk. And it made I drank a lot of milk growing up. I've never, in all of my travels, I've never had food sickness that I can remember. I've got guts like a dog, so that didn't make me sick, but any other tourist I saw in Mongolia got pretty dang sick from drinking that
I
stuff.
guess. Holy shit, you probably have guts of steel forever after that one though.
Yeah, I don't food and stuff like I've never really gotten bothered by things like that. So I drink a ton of that over there. That was the weirdest thing I ever drank. The weirdest thing I ever ate though was in Australia because I lived with Aborigines the whole time.
Is that who ran the businesses to catch the wild bulls?
No, the guy who owned the whole company was a white guy, but
Okay.
about half of our crew was Aboriginal guys, and
And you lived
we
with
were living on an Aboriginal community, which is essentially like an Indian reservation, and so that crew would cook up some stuff sometimes for us that was like traditional Aboriginal food, and they'd do a cut murray, they called it, and basically they'd dig a pit in the ground and throw coals in there. And then take palm leaves and cover it, and it was like an old barbecue kind of. But they threw a goanna in there, and a goanna is like a Komodo dragon. They're like a great big monitor lizard. And so I ate some goanna while I was over there.
Tastes probably like a alligator or something, maybe.
Yeah, it was like greasy chicken.
Greasy chicken.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man! I'm excited to read the book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go start right now before Coulter's show. Although I haven't had a real meal in quite a while, I probably should eat a real meal.
Probably should eat something. Yeah.
At some point. Okay, talk about Dusty Vaquero days though. Quick, give it a little plug and where people can buy tickets. They just went on sale in the last few weeks here, I think, right?
Yeah.
We'll put the show up before that event.
Sure.
But May 30th and 31st again, 2025 in Gillette, Wyoming. Talk about some of the headliners. Talk about who you can maybe sprinkle in who's still to be announced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just tell us about the event and it's gonna be to put on a whole festival. You're gonna have some money invested in this thing, so I hope it goes really well for you.
Yeah, it's been quite the production just getting it put together. But we've announced about half of the artists so far. Every artist that's playing the festival is an artist that's already been on my YouTube channel. So that was the pool we picked from. There's nobody in this year. There's nobody that hasn't been on there, and so every single one of these artists that's playing this festival is either a working cowboy themselves, or they were at one time, or there's a couple of them that have kind of maybe their dad was a cowboy or something like that. But that's what ties it all together. Is everybody's very strongly connected to ranching that's on this festival. We've got Dave Stamey coming, which I'm super stoked about, and then Kellen Smith, Kenny Fiddler, Lowdown Drifters, Carson Jeffries coming up for it. We were pretty excited. We got Colton Jesse's also coming. He kind of took a hiatus from music the last year or two, and nobody was quite sure if he was going to come back. But this might be one of his first shows back. We had to bug him a little bit to get him to come, but he's going to come up. Logan Ryan, Cade Hoffman, and there's still, that's only half of it. There's a bunch more, and there might be some big time special guests that show up there.
To be determined.
Maybe. So we'll see what happens, but it's pretty affordable as far as tickets. Festivals go. Yeah. It's a 2-day deal, and we've got camping. We're gonna put on a goat roping. It'll be a good time. Carson Jeffrey makes belt buckles, and so he's putting together two buckles for us, and those will be the first annual goat roping champion buckles. So come rope some goats and listen to some good music.
What's your definition of cowboy shit?
Cowboy shit. Man, I think it's things that just are on the verge of being out of control. Like, I think that's where you feel the most alive, is right there on the edge. And to me, that is cowboy shit, is being right there on the edge and pushing yourself, because that's where you also learn the most. You learn the most about yourself. You learn new skill sets by pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, wherever that may be. And so I think when you hear people say that we're doing cowboy shit, it's stuff that's pushing the envelope a little bit.
Well, and you know it firsthand, having done cowboy shit on a large amount of the planet.
Yeah.
Did you ever read the Western Horseman Comrade Cowboys thing where they talked about the Russian guys starting like a whole ranch and feedlot and all that?
No, I heard a lot about those guys. That was actually one of the things that kind of inspired me years ago to want to, like, that was what made me realize there was stuff outside the U.S., like cowboy stuff going on. Yeah. But no, I didn't read the article, but I've heard about all that going on.
I remember reading it, like, Dad still subscribed to the Western Horseman. I remember reading about it. It was just unbelievable. Like, that, I guess, like, what my point is, like, for people listening, is that there is cowboy shit everywhere in the world, and you've done it and seen it. So I appreciate you taking the time to come over here and visit with us and come and tell your story.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. Thank you for having me.
Once again, JB Zielke, check out The Lost Cowboy on Amazon, forward by our buddy Coulter Wall. friend of the show, but Dusty Vaquero Days, May 30th and 31st, 2025, Gillette, Wyoming. Check him out on the social media. Check out the website. Give us your website info. TheLostCowboy.com.
LostCowboy.com and
Yeah.
also DustyVaqueroDays.com.
DustyVaqueroDays.com.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hope everything goes awesome for the event. Hope you sell a bunch more books.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Is there
Thanks.
another book in the works?
Maybe I have not
It's a big
started
undertaking.
writing one, but
Okay.
I'm sure there's one up in this in my small brain. I'm sure there's another book somewhere up there.
Well, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks for filming too, Devin. Thanks for being here. Matt, great co-hosting job too.
Nice job.
Okay, thanks again to JB Zielke for sharing his stories. Make sure to get his book everywhere the books are sold. He's self-published there, so yeah, buy his book, folks. Try and support him. He's doing some fun stuff. Dusty Vaquero Days, also, he's got a big event coming up. Is this the right way?
Yeah,
Can you see
looks
that proper?
good. Yeah.
Got a couple
Where-
stickers there. He gave me
Where the
before
hell is
end
the
of
Lost Cowboy?
right? Some fun stuff. There's another one here, Dusty Vaquero. That's his video, all the video stuff he's up to. Check him out on Instagram. There's one more here. I got to see what it was. That's business card. Anyways, got new shit on the website, Dustin. What else we got? Something else we were supposed to talk about. I forgot what it was. Oh, coming up next, Kenny Fiddler.
Oh yeah, this is gonna
Yeah.
be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. Another one we recorded in Vegas. That's coming up another 2 weeks. That'll be on the 22nd. Everybody stay well out there though. And thanks for joining us once more time. Thanks for doing this today too, Dustin. Congratulations. You guys had an awesome wedding. Probably one of the most fun ones. Probably the most fun, best wedding I've ever been a part of. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thanks for everything, Ted, and thanks everybody for tuning in this week.